Oh, it says the Illyrians were trying to get into the Federation. Does that not? That didn't. Okay, never mind. Maybe I'll just cut this out. Maybe that was just a. Hail, Internet! It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here talking about Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 3, Ghosts of Illyria. We open with the captain leading an away team to investigate a missing colony of Illyrians, a group banned by the Federation because they practice genetic engineering. An ion storm traps Pike and Spock on the planet while the rest of the crew suffer a virus outbreak. We end with number one offering to resign because she's secretly an Illyrian, Pike waving off that resignation, and number one reflecting on whether Pike would have been so accommodating if she hadn't just saved the crew. And the final shot is of Dr. Mbenga reading to his daughter, and we'll talk more about that detail in a second. Paul?
Yes?
What did you think of episode 2? Or episode 3?
It's a haha. Yes, exactly. I liked it, not as much as the first two.
Okay.
I was less than thrilled with the result of Mbenge's lies. I'm skeptical if this will be a very fruitful plot that goes on. So we'll see.
Well, I'll tell you this. Having just come off of Severance, it made me think oh my God, this little girl is eternally being read to by her dad. I don't know. It's like,
yeah.
I just wake up, no, and then you're back, and then you're back. Severance, that was considered like a hellish state of existence. But
yes, but for her, I guess she's just like, keep reading.
Keep reading that same story.
Yeah, keep going.
It's like you just finished it because you did.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, he's Mr. Freeze in a way, right? Like he's like the DC villain.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But it's nice and it's heartwarming, and he's trying to save his kid.
Yes.
And so I assume that plot line will pay off at some point in the future.
Yeah, hopefully.
Some civilization will be able to snap their fingers and fix the problem.
Maybe it's the same civilization that ultimately helps out Pike. She's like just a virtual little girl running around with a undeformed virtual Pike.
The Telogans. That's it. You laugh, but that could actually be a thing. Speaking of that, because I just thought about Mr. Freeze, it also made me think, I feel like there's an X-Men crossover in this episode as well. In that you've got Rebecca Romaine's number one has an awfully similar backstory to Mystique. Right? I mean, she plays Mystique in the movies, but it's like super-powered mutant who has to hide her powers to blend in with the society that rejects her kind. You're like, oh, all right. Well, anyway, so she's going to be able to morph at some point, I think. I did like the fact that, once again, we get a simple premise. I like the fact, within a couple of minutes, the stakes are clearly set out.
Sure.
They actually end up wrapping up the crisis with a few minutes to spare. I mean, they were
yes.
economical in that way. It's funny, I think I maybe have mentioned this once in one of our maybe Discovery recaps back in the day, but I'll bring it up again in that one of my friends, ultimate Trekkie friend, Hunter, the biggest Trekkie that I personally know, he was an original series guy. He enjoyed Star Trek Next Generation, but he was a little critical of its early seasons, and the way he put it was, in his mind at least, the original series would spend 5 minutes getting the crew into terrible trouble and 55 minutes getting them out. Whereas in his mind, the first few seasons of Next Generation spent 55 minutes getting them into trouble and 5 minutes getting them out.
I see.
And so this is like an original series thing. He's getting them right into trouble, spend the rest of the time getting them out. So I appreciate that. I also appreciated the metaphor in a way of so the disease is an addiction to light, essentially.
Yes.
To the point that it makes you crazy. I mean, what was it?
Yes.
Hemmer, I think is his name. The engineer's going to bring part of the Earth's or the planet's core. It'd be great. Anyway,
that's good. You can thank me later for my genius.
Right.
You're going to love this. He says.
So, yeah, you're gonna love this. I like how he snaps his fingers too. I
want to see that more. Snapping his fingers and people just doing his bidding.
But basically the analogy of this addiction to light being compared with basically bringing secrets into light, right? So we've got this idea of like I've been holding a secret that I'm this Illyrian all this time, and then of course the doctor's like, I've got this secret. I've been keeping my daughter alive secretly.
Yes.
And so anyway, so that was a little interesting metaphors there. I like that. So there's the scene there where number one's like, look, I'm resigning. I get it. I've lied.
Yes.
That's like I've essentially done like illegal actions where I've just like totally gone against code and
yes.
I get it. And Pike's like, yeah, you're fine. And it made me think of like I can imagine him saying like, well, I have seen into the future, right? And in 10 years, when I'm radiated to within an inch of my life, guess what? I'm still a Starfleet officer, so this is all fine. I don't. Whatever happens, they'll believe me, so it's fine. You just leave it to me. Right, okay. He's untouchable.
Yeah, we don't see her in that final thing, so who knows what happens to...
well, exactly. Maybe it's like, from my standpoint, it's fine. So, I'll
I'll be fine. Yeah.
I'll be fine. This isn't what brings me down. I'm totally good. That said, I guess maybe also I thought about it. The star of the show, in some ways, is his hair. Like, Pike's hair never moves.
Sure, no.
It's like fire demons are hitting him and ion storms. It's like, it's coiffed. He's coiffed. Very well coiffed.
Leading into your current, this is how to save him? By making some sort of hair suit?
Good point. A shield. What I thought was kind of interesting was the reactions of the crew to learning about number one's background, right? So she's an Illyrian, and you've got different people. Well, Lon seems to be the one person that's particularly outraged about it.
Yes.
But everyone else kind of...
Because he was unfairly accused of being an alt, or what did she call them?
An augment.
An augment when she was a child. And, all along, Una was an augment.
So we get clarification that, in fact, Lon is not an augment, right? So she just was accused of it because Khan... There's a little bit of this idea of like, well, that was bad back then. People that want to do genetic engineering must be bad across the board. And now they're kind of saying, well, maybe in certain societies it's not necessarily mean you're evil. I guess it's kind of what they're doing, right? So Lon has this sense of her own past that makes her reject number one. But then you've got, Pike. Pike basically says it's fine because he knows her, and he's like, hey, you're my best officer. And Benga, I think, is good with it because he feels guilty that he was breaking his own regs, and Chapel, I don't know, she just...
one thing that occurred to me is in the first episode we saw Nurse Chapel was basically talking about how, hey, if you guys got to go to a planet and look like another race, I can help you out by, messing with your DNA, which, apparently is okay, as long as I guess you don't stay that way.
Right.
So that's genetic augmentation right there. As opposed to... in the original series, where basically they were just putting on makeup. They didn't. Yeah,
it's true.
They didn't.
If I put these prosthetics on, no one. Right.
They didn't claim to be changing your genetic code, as I recall. Correct me if I'm wrong, viewers. So it's a question to me whether or not they end up communicating that to the whole crew, or if it's just need to know basis. Which I guess if they did tell the whole crew, someone would squeal. So they probably won't tell everyone. But it's one of those things that the command structure of the Enterprise knows in case, it affects something. And I would assume the same with, that Una would tell Pike about Umbega's, child, just so he knows too, like, oh, this is weird. Is something wrong with your extra transporter in Vega. Well, could you check on that for us?
Right, because she even says we're going to devote some portion of the
the warp core or whatever.
The warp core batteries or whatever.
Yeah.
So it should be hard to do that without going, here's why.
Yes. That Hemmer would be like, what the heck is going on?
Exactly. I did like that the ship's warning when so it's Lon is going to activate or deactivate the containment field for the warp core in order to appease her light addiction. And so the warning is like, warning, warp core containment field has been deactivated. Recommend reestablishing containment field. It was like, yeah, I would recommend that as well. Maybe.
Yes, certainly. It's not like, the AI in Discovery would probably have a little more.
Right?
To say
Are
about
you
it,
sure
I would think.
You want to?
Like I think there's something wrong with you. Maybe we should have a talk about this. Let's talk about your emotions. Yeah. In that case, like you definitely want them to be like, I don't think I'm going to do that. That's what you want them to be like. No, this would end my life.
So this episode obviously was like hey, here's these Illyrians. The backstory is they were trying to get accepted by the Federation.
Yes.
So in doing so, they unmodified themselves, but then turned themselves into fire demons.
Yes.
And then we get this thing of like, oh, by the way, number one is also a secret Illyrian. All right, well, the next episode with the trailer, spoilers if you don't want to know what's coming in episode 4, but they've done a trailer.
Spoilers.
It is, it's the Gorn.
Yes.
And so it's obviously
Lan's now like, ah!
So it's kind of one of these like, oh, we're meeting up with this group. Oh, it's the Gorn. Oh, by the way, I have this tragic backstory with the Gorn.
Yes.
And then in the following episode after that, we've got Spock Amok. So it's like, oh, Spock's got this thing.
Have you heard what it is about? Because I think I have heard of it. What is it?
Oh, I have not heard. So go for it, sir. Again, spoilers if you're.
Spoilers. More spoilers.
Right.
I mean, my understanding is that Spock and T'Pring, that apparently they changed places. So I could be wrong, but that's what my understanding is. So sort of like how Kirk and that scientist changed places. It might be like that, where they're beaming up from another planet, and then whoops.
Oh, in other words, her consciousness is in his body?
Yes, and vice versa. Yes.
Okay, all right. I guess what I was going with that is I was thinking to myself, every episode doesn't necessarily have to be like, oh, this is related to character X's tragic backstory or whatever. Like,
yes.
Like it's okay to have, it's a problem and we all have to solve it. A la episode 2, essentially.
In episode 2, that's when we learned about the tragic backstory of Uhura.
That's true. Actually, we did hear about tragic backstory. But the point being, like, this one was, hey, random planet with this problem also happens to coincidentally connect directly to number 1. In the next episode, well, this random thing where there's a colony missing happens to be the goal. Oh, it's directly connected to character X's other backstory. You don't have to do that. I think that starts, like, the coincidental nature of that starts to get really weird after a while, I think, where it's like, okay, everything has to have some kind of a deep personal connection to somebody. Was it, I think it was George Clooney talking about ER. This is like, I used to watch ER. I thought ER was a pretty good show. I wasn't even living in Chicago at the time. But somebody on the show, and I think it was George Clooney, was asked later in the seasons, like, how has the show changed? And his description was like, well, like in season 1, you might have someone show up at the intake desk with like an arrow in their neck, and they'd be like, go to curtain 2. And then the guy leaves, and that's kind of it. But like by the end of the show, it was like, oh, well, the doctor treating the guy with the arrows in the neck, his parents died in a tragic bow accident, and he got a pathological fear of arrows, but he still has to treat this guy. Or, like, it's okay sometimes for your cast to deal with a problem, and they don't have to necessarily have some really intricate personal connection to the problem. That's all. And it's a little cautionary warning. Hopefully,
sure.
It's not like every episode has to tie into somebody's tragic backstory. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, but the show continues to be entertaining. I like Pike. I like Spock. I like their interactions down on the planet.
So I'm curious to see if they're going to, how they're going to proceed the story with Una. If it's just going to be, she's doing stuff where you're like, wow, she's really strong in this situation, and wow, she's, she didn't get sick again. We know basically that for quite a long time, the Starfleet's not going to change their minds, and they're not going to have her leave the show. A lot of people were reminded of Deep Space Nine in this episode, not only because Julian Bashir was genetically altered, and it was revealed in Deep Space Nine, and he had to get special dispensation basically to stay in Starfleet.
Great point.
And his father was punished for genetically manipulating his son. And other people too have noted that Una's deleting her entire her log entry is reminiscent of what Sisko had to do when he was having an entry where he revealed that he was involved in a plot to kill a Cardassian, an assassination attempt. Those little, I enjoyed those little things there. But they're not going to change their minds in this period of time because that would change things.
Yeah.
So
no,
I
right.
don't know, I guess it'll just be, everybody will be making little jokes, I guess. And I'm not sure what plot is going to come out of this. It's just, I guess there's something else.
Because a lot of people know right now. I mean,
yes.
It's not like only Pike knows, so it feels like it's almost like if it's a secret, it's a really open secret at this point.
Well, again, I think it probably, two people in the sickbay know, and the security person knows, and the captain knows, but who else knows? Everybody else was either unconscious or looking at a light when Una was running around. So
you were talking about things that are nice little callbacks to other versions of the show. I mean, obviously, even the topic of this episode is kind of that, right? The outbreak type episode.
Yeah.
Pretty much every installment has had its own, like, oh my God, the ship! Oh, we're in trouble. We have to figure out the solution. Yes. One person is still around.
Yeah, and and it's worth mentioning too. Everybody's mentioned it, I'm sure, but we had contact tracing, and we had lockdowns. So it was very informed by COVID, of course.
So yeah, I thought it was efficient. I thought it was well done. I thought some of the visuals looked really cool too. The Ion Storm looked really great.
Yeah.
With the Ion Storm, obviously, to me, is always like it's the how do you counteract the transporter trope. It's like the Ion Storm has been another classic Trek thing. Is like, oh, there's an Ion Storm, can't do the transporter. Like, okay. Problem solved. We can't fix the story by teleporting or transporting anybody. So it's funny. But yeah, it looked really cool. I appreciate the attention to detail there. And
I liked the comedy that came out of Hemmer there when he said to Una, "It's like, I can sense your facial expression." She's like, "Oh, I know." And she asked him, like, "Oh, do you have a response?" Like, "No, that's why I'm still doing this diagnostic that's going to take all night to make you happy."
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, he had some pretty good lines. His stage time to good line ratio was pretty high.
Yes.
So well done for Hemmer.
Yes.
Anyway, looking forward to what we're going to see. We're going to get Gorns, the Gorn. In fact, that's a great point. What will the Gorn look like? They're not going to be rubber mask guys anymore.
Sure,
so
no,
I assume, I assume we're going to see an upgrade on Gorn technology. So I look forward to seeing that. But yeah, anyway, we'll be back. Actually, this is going to be a tricky week for us, Dork Lord Paul.
Yes.
We've got
Matt.
We've got obviously the next episode of Strange New Worlds. We also have 2 episodes of Obi-Wan dropping early Friday morning, and then we got a holiday. We got a 3-day weekend.
Oh, sure.
So we have to figure out what we're doing anyway. But yeah, so something is coming your way, everybody. So get ready for that. But yeah, anyway, so we'll be back talking about something very soon. So thanks as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back. Bye.
Bye.